Before we jump in, I'll just do a quick intro. So this is for any New Zealand athletes. I'm a swimmer, so maybe the swimmers in particular, but any athletes that are looking to learn a little more about possibly looking into the college system, trying to understand if this journey is right for them. My name is Tash, and I'm the head swimming recruiter for Platform Sports Management, and I work with Amrit, who is amazing and very passionate about helping New Zealand athletes find colleges for them. So today I have two of my friends and previous training partners and teammates with me. We have, excuse me, Luis and Santi, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and please don't be humble, because otherwise I'm going to come back through and clarify how good you both are. So I guess in the screen for me, Luis is next to me. So do you want to go ahead, Luis?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hello. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Luis Martinez. Like Tosh said, I swam with her here at Auburn for me, it was from 2015 till 2018. And through my time here, I was able to meet amazing people, qualify to 2 Olympic Games, win, really good things, but most importantly, meet, a lot of people like Tosh and Santi that, have helped me through that journey. So I am happy to be here and share that with you.
Hey Tash, hey guys, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure. My name is Santiago Grassi. I am from Argentina. I'm 24 years old. I was in Auburn from 2017 to 2020. Also share the team with them. I think Tash, you were my senior class when I came to Auburn. Luis, we were roommates. So really being here in Auburn wasn't only about swimming, it was about meeting people, the new experiences, growing personal growth. So really, I loved the opportunity to be here in Auburn. I went to the Olympics in 2016. I think that definitely coming to the US has helped me in my swimming career, but also probably more in my life, because I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about who I am and the things that I like to do because of the people that surround me. And I think that's because of my journey here to the US.
Totally. I love that. I agree so much. You two are obviously still swimming. I am not, but I think that the people is such an important part. Like, I remember swimming. Obviously, I remember the trainings. I remember Luis complaining that the water was too cold. But the people, totally. I completely agree. It's such an important part. And so as these two mentioned, they are both Olympians. So it's always an honor to be around athletes that have achieved the highest honor in their sport. And I guess there's one way that you prove that you're an Olympian. So do you guys want to prove to the camera that you've both been there? Yep, there we go, Luis.
Believe us. No, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so now there's no doubt, right? That's awesome. Well, I would love to chat to you guys a little bit more about your experiences, because we have a lot of New Zealand swimmers, but also athletes. I think that it doesn't have to just be swimming, right? Because the experience as a collegiate athlete can be reasonably similar across sports. And we have a lot of New Zealand swimmer athletes, I should say, that because we're so far away, it's hard to get a lot of information, right? As these young athletes going through high school, they don't get as much information as maybe a American high school athlete would get, knowing what to prepare for in college. So would you guys mind chatting to me about when you were younger, before committing to Auburn and before coming to Auburn, did you always know that you wanted to go to college? Obviously, your experiences might be a little bit different, but yeah, did you know that you wanted to come here? How did you find out? How did you learn? And a little bit about pre-Auburn.
Should I go first?
Yeah, totally.
For me, it was very much a similar experience to what you're sharing now with the people in New Zealand, right? I had a teammate that had swam at Auburn, but I didn't really think of Auburn as the only place I could go. I was, as I grew up, it started becoming, something I would want to do maybe, but I really wasn't sure at first, although I would have, I was like, I would like to do that, right? but yeah, it was something that was kind of like shown to me when I was, younger, like you're doing right now. And I think that was a very valuable tool because it opened obviously not the doors, because I wasn't in any university first, but it opened my mind to new things, things that probably were in common for swimmers in Guatemala or swimmers around the world. This is something that has been growing slowly over the past decade and a half, and it's such an important tool. And moving forward, once I actually came to Auburn, right, I think before I came here, I've had to do a lot of decisions in my life, like choosing swimming as a sport, which, I guess is not that big of a decision, but leaving my house is an important decision, all these small decisions. And I can tell you that out of all these decisions, the best decision I had ever made in my life was come here, right? Like you were talking about the people, I think here I learned, in America, you learn the experience that even though swimming, it's an individual sport, it can be a team sport as well. And that is super valuable, because when you grow up to be a professional in whatever you do, right, most likely you're going to be working with other people, and you need to learn how to be happy about what other people do as well, because it might help you get better, right? So that's what the college experience is all about, talking about the things I learned and all that. And like Santi said, that he's happy to be working with all the people that he met. There's no point being the best in the world if you can't share that with anybody, right? So it was the best decision I have ever made in my life. And even though my journey was pretty streamlined, like this was presented to me, this is what I wanted to do, and then I went out there and chased it. I understand it's not the same for everybody, but I can tell you it was the best decision of my life.
Totally. I couldn't agree
Awesome.
more.
Yeah.
How about you, Santi? What was your experience learning about the college system and then making that decision to come over?
I think for me also it was a little different. I mean, I think like I can probably relate to the majority of the guys, or the people right now. I was that kid that had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I really had no idea what I was going to do after high school. Even during high school, they ask you, what do you want to do? And I was swimming at that point, and I was like, I don't know. I think I want to keep swimming, but college-wise, I don't think in Argentina it's kind of hard to do both at the same time. The system is not there, so you would have to like try to do it on your own. So when I was offered to come to the US, as you say, my mind was like open. Like it's not like I had different opportunities to come to different colleges, but the moment I was presented the idea that it's not only in Argentina, the things that I can do, I can also travel and go somewhere else, was huge for me. And I also would say that coming to the US has been one of the most important things that happened to me in my life. Because again, like it wasn't about, at that point I wanted to be a better swimmer. And I was like, that's how I'm going to be a better swimmer, going to the US, training there. And then I was like, well, I guess that at the same time, I'm going to study and I'm going to get a degree. So now that I'm done, I can say that the most important thing wasn't only about swimming, it was about me and growing and like doing things that probably at that point, I thought that it was going to be so difficult or maybe impossible. I didn't speak English before I came here. It was very, very hard for me to dream with coming to the US and getting a degree and like having new friends and new people. But something inside of me told me like, I feel like this is what you want. This is what you need. I always like to do new things, try different stuff, and really coming to the US was that little thing that I was needing in my life. I took a break in Argentina after I finished high school. I took 2 years break. So I really didn't know what I was going to do. And the US was presented to me, and I was like, wow, this is really the moment that I was waiting for. So I really didn't think that much. I was like, what do I need to do? What tests do I need to do? I'm going to study for those tests. I think I studied for 1 month. I only had 1 month to study for the SAT, and I studied so much. There was no plan B. I was like, going to make it or going to make it. And then I came to the US, and I was like, well, one day I'm going to learn English. It's going to take my time, but I really enjoy my time here because, again, the people. I met awesome people here that show me that swimming is something that we do, but it's not who we are. So really, it wasn't about swimming. It was just about the experience here in Auburn, meeting new people, new family, and then realizing that it's not individual sport. I had a team here, and that was one of the best things ever, having 60 people, 60 more swimmers, 60 more friends that I could relate to, and that made it so much easier.
Totally. I think the team bit, when I chat with New Zealand swimmers on the phone, or if I have a Zoom call with them, for me, that's the first thing that's always coming out of my mouth. Like, if you thrive in a team environment, if you want to do this sport for something bigger than yourself, and you love crazy swim meets where everyone's screaming and you can't hear yourself because it's like echoing in your swimming cap, then the States is where you got to go, right? Like the team side is so incredible. And I don't know necessarily for you guys what it was like growing up with the competitions at home, but in New Zealand is pretty little, and our swimming meets, they do their best, but the meets were pretty quiet. Like, there's not a ton of screaming, there's not people going crazy on the sides, and of course there's some supporters, but the environment is just not the same. So for me, that was my first experience when I came over to the States and saw like how crazy everyone goes, just even for a dual meet when you have one school versus another, so it's not even a big competition. I loved that. And I think that we all have such fond memories, you know, of, even if you're tired, right? Like I feel like I remember times where Luis's arms are barely coming out of the water for his butterfly events.
barely coming out of the water.
But you stand up there and do it for the team, right? And that's what's so amazing. Yeah, it is such an incredible experience. And I'm so glad for both of you and for myself, that we found the opportunity. And I was very similar. Again, didn't really know if the States was right. Well, hadn't even thought about it, like you said. And then someone suggested it. And then it was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should look into it. Didn't even know if I'd go that route, but to even look into it was just so exciting. So I'm happy to be able to give this. Hopefully we can give some athlete in New Zealand the thought, like, maybe I should look into it, you know? So I'm so glad that we can be doing this.
Something big that I think we all three went through is like, we left home to come here. And that's probably probably the biggest challenge for everyone that is not from the US, is to leave home. For me, my family is everything. It's one of my biggest supporters that I have, and I love them so much. But leaving home was something hard that I had to do, because I knew that my journey was somewhere else. I needed to go. And then the opportunities that we have nowadays with technology are amazing. So it's not that hard if you think it compared to maybe the 2000s, when they didn't have FaceTime, or they didn't have like video calls and everything. So I would say, like, for those that maybe are scared of leaving home, what calmed me down was like, you can always come back. You can always come back. If you don't like it, you can come back. And that was something that I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to stay there, but I know at least that if I don't like it, I can come back. And then having to talk with my parents every day, or like, you can see them every day if you want, it's something huge. So I would say, like, it's probably worse what we made up in our minds than what it really is.
Totally. Yeah, I agree completely. I think that is one of the questions that comes up a lot as well with New Zealand swimmers and athletes, is it's pretty far away. It's a pretty big flight. It is. And that first flight is scary, but I still very clearly remember when I first moved into the dorms, and, you know, I was feeling a little nervous, but then I walk into my dorm room and the whole team has come to welcome me. And I'm sure that you guys had really similar experiences. That, wouldn't you say that we traveled away from our blood family, but immediately moved into this huge family of supporters?
Absolutely.
I remember, actually, this is funny, because when I took my recruiting trip to Auburn, it was not even a recruiting trip. It's like, hey, I'm going to be here in the next month trip. I was there, and when I was for breakfast, you were actually sitting next to me, Tosh. Like, it was you, Caroline, Bia, Alex Hancock. Everybody was there at breakfast with me. All these are names of, like, teammates we had. And I was like, this is so special, right? That even though I know they're tired and it's a Sunday morning, they're here, you know, having breakfast, because that's what is needed for the team, right? So that was very special. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, it's so powerful. And that is, I'm sure that is beyond Auburn. You know, we were really fortunate to move into the Auburn family, but I think that New Zealand athletes looking at colleges across the states will have similar experiences. Obviously, they should check out the colleges and see that they connect, but I do believe that is a mentality that's bred within a lot of colleges, right? We were so lucky to have Auburns, and we're all going to keep saying Auburn because that was for us, but you don't have to go to Auburn, and so you could be welcomed into a family in any American university as a student athlete. So it is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I wonder for either of you guys, I know that when I think back to my pre-college days and trying to make that decision, I was fortunate to be in conversation with a lot of universities. And if I redid my process, I probably would have, like, one thing that I would change would be sort of narrow it down and try and get rid of a little bit of the noise to help me focus on my journey to make that decision of what university. So that's something I would change. Is there anything that you guys would change or wish you had known? Or, you know, like if you think back and like, oh, pre-college Luis, what would I have done differently or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there is so many factors of going to a place, which is true. You know, now we're talking about seriously, you know, what are the things you got to worry about when you go somewhere else? And I would definitely, I had all these options, you know, of universities, and I would like go and talk to them. And don't feel discouraged if you don't hear back from most won't even answer, right? Like that's just the reality of it. You're in contact with them, but you know, obviously you just go to one, so you know the rest didn't work out, right? So something I would definitely think about would be, you know, when you go to a place, you don't only need to like the place and the culture and the team, but also, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you know, do you like cold weather? Do you like warm weather? You know, all these factors outside of your experience as a collegiate athlete matter, right? I would have narrowed down maybe my choice to a few, you know, where I was like, where do I want to live? Not only because, you know, the weather or whatever, because I like the place as well. You know, take as many trips as you can, right? I think there's a lot of factors that people that are not really sure of where they're going, right, can affect them in their experience later. So I was lucky enough to come to Alabama, right, which is great weather and all that stuff, and the people are amazing, and I've you know met the best friends of my life. But I've seen people come here and maybe it was a rush decision or something like that. So definitely, yeah, you got to really, you know, think about every single aspect of the place you're going to. It's more of a quality choice than quantity, right? You don't need to choose 30 universities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Santi? Is there anything you wish that you had known or would maybe do differently or anything like that?
Well, as foreigner athletes, we need to understand that in the U.S., if you practice any sport, that is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. Sports open doors here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. The education, as you probably know, it's very expensive in here. So if you play sports, that's something huge that might help you get through a college, your college career and doing sport, playing sport and doing something. So as Luis say, probably the place, big city, small city, but I would say like when you're trying to make that decision, try not to hear everyone everything that everyone has to say. Mm-hmm. And maybe when I was young, I made a mistake maybe to expect that everyone was going to support me. And I told probably everyone, and not everyone told me that it was a great idea. Some people say, I don't know about that. And if it can happen that because of that person, you might get demoralized and like think that maybe you want to sit back and not do it. So try not to listen to everyone that everyone has to say. I mean, of course you want to tell your family and maybe your closest friends, but if you're going to expect a confirmation and an approval from everyone, that's probably very hard. And at the end, it's going to be for you. You are the one that's going to do it. And I promise you that if you feel in your heart that you have to do it, probably that's it. That's everything you need. Because it's gonna be scary. It's gonna be hard at the beginning, but it's gonna be great if you jump in the plane and you sometimes like. I mean, I cry as soon as I left home. I cried for 2 hours until I got to the airport. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. This is fine. I didn't cry because I didn't want to leave, but I cried because I knew it was gonna be a couple months until the next time I was gonna see my parents, and that's fine. I mean, it's part of the process. But doing it, I mean, you grow so much. So I think that's part of life, making sure that you don't need the approval from everyone. You just need to know that if that's what you want, sometimes you have to go for it.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. Totally, Luis, go ahead.
I want to add something else because Santi mentioned really important, which is the universities and the education in the U.S. And that's something I haven't mentioned. That is, you get an amazing education here as well, right? It's not only about coming here and swimming. When you choose a university, they're going to make sure that you are on track to complete your degree, right? To become a full, well-rounded person, not just, one thing. You're going to be a swimmer, a person, a professional, like, a real athlete, not just a swimmer. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, totally. I think that that's so important. And I also love what you said, Santi, about not needing approval from everyone. I think that's really powerful. And I'd sort of forgotten, and you just reminded me that actually when I was considering the States, a lot of the more well-known New Zealand swimming figures, whether they were coaches or staff or swimmers, told me not to go. I had so many people telling me not to go for various reasons. And of course, their reasons are valid. And for them, it felt like a legitimate piece of information that they needed to share with me. And so I'm thankful that they felt that they should share their information. But, I had totally forgotten that was an experience I went through, was that a lot of people told me not to do it for various reasons. And I listened to my heart and listened to a few people closest to me that I trusted and that felt knew me the best, and based my decision off that. And so I really love that you mentioned that, because I do think that you are going to hear a whole spectrum of opinions, right? And everyone always has to give an opinion, and that's fine, and that's the world that we live in. But at the end of the day, you've got to listen to what you want in your heart, like you said, and maybe the closest unit around you. So I love that. But then also what Luis said, yeah, totally. The well-roundedness is so amazing. And I mean, I've been so fortunate that graduating out of Auburn as a student athlete with my degree is what led me to being able to get a really fantastic scholarship for my MBA, right? Like, you never know. I wouldn't, if I was in New Zealand, the chances of me getting my MBA paid for, I don't think I would have had an opportunity for that. And now I'm living in beautiful Colorado with my MBA that was mostly covered by a scholarship because of my swimming, right? It all led back to that. And I think that's so important to speak about, that it's more than swimming. So in terms of the support that we get as student athletes, and especially as foreign athletes, I do think that they go out of their way to look after us. And so is there anything that you guys would speak to, or whether that's the health side, the academic side, the food, anything? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, for me it was like, it was crazy. Like, I remember calling my parents the first week I came to Auburn, and I was like, I don't know how to describe this. I feel like I'm in a movie. Like, I feel like I'm like training for, I don't know if you have seen the movie Miracle, when the U.S. and Russia go into this hockey match in the 80s for the Olympic medal, right? And it's like super inspirational. And I was like, I feel like I'm training for that. Like, you go out of practice, you have all these things, food, psychology, all aspects from nutrition, tutors, everything you need to become the best version of yourself in and out of the water is there, right? And you might be scared of, like Santi said, hopping on the plane and doing that. But let me tell you, once you're here, it's so good that it goes by so fast. Like, I look back and I'm like, I wish I got back to a moment where, everybody was caring about you and, like helping you, be better and your education. So yeah, it's hard to describe how much they go out of their way, like you said, to to make sure that you are the best student athlete you can possibly be. All the opportunities that you can possibly think of are here. And I'm pretty sure, like you said, it doesn't need to be Auburn, but just the system of NCAA swimming or NCAA sports in general is so well built that they really, really care about their athletes and what they can do for the university.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think adding to what he said, to what Luis said, is like coming to the U.S., you're not only coming to probably study whatever you like to do or to swim or to do a sport. I mean, you're going to come here and jump into a system that you're going to train to be probably the best. You're going to be in the best shape of your life. You're going to be in a team doing things that you thought probably was crazy to do before that. I remember for me I was in love with the team as soon as I came here. When we came to the pool and we did dryland and we did swim, and I was like, wow, so this is what a swimmer looks like. I mean, I thought that I was a swimmer before and I didn't do this many things, and I was like, this is awesome. At the same time, you're gonna have to study. You're gonna have to like manage your hours and like combine your training session to your study hours and your classes. So at the end of your 4 years, you're not only like a person that came to the US and did your best. You managed to do a high intense sport program. You managed to study probably, I mean, for me, it's, for example, was in another language. You managed to study a career, and those two things at the same time, it's not really how good you do it, but if you manage to do it and you put the effort, you are really growing. You're really like improving in a way that you probably never thought that you were going to do it. And at the end, you're going to realize that even though the degree says like probably like engineer or business or something, you're going to realize that you can do whatever you want in your life. Because if you went through those 4 years of high intense sport and then chosen a career to study, at the end, you're like, you know what? I mean, at least for me, I was like, this was just like a challenge for me in a way that I love marketing and I love information system. That's what I did. That's what I studied. But actually what I was doing was just proving that I can do whatever I propose, whatever I put in front of me, I can achieve it. And that was like coming to the US for me. Just proving that, you know, like, of course you try to do something that you like to do, but at the end it's about, you know, like, again, like coming back to the people, the experiences and everything. It's so much thing that you're getting coming to the US that at the end you're gonna feel so good and like very ready to go out to the outward and do whatever really you want.
I love that. Yeah, totally. Thank you for both your answers. I think that that's so powerful, and obviously it's set you guys up pretty well because you are training for the Olympics now, right? It was supposed to be 2020, but here we are 2021 and pushing forward. So yeah. I think that, like you said, Santi, it's the strength that it gives you, that strength, and it makes you know that you can achieve things that you put your mind to. But it's also, it allows you to achieve for your country as well, right? So one concern naturally that comes up with student athletes, especially foreign student athletes, is, well, how is this going to work? I clearly am going to love my college and I'm going to get an amazing education, but how does that then look for swimming for my country? And you two are about to swim for your countries again, which is so exciting. And you did during your college time as well, whether that was going for a nationals or a Pan Pacs or anything, you know. So you've done it during your Auburn time when you were actually a student athlete as well. So can you talk me through how you felt that you could sort of manage both? And maybe why don't we do it backwards? Let's go Santi first this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, when you come here, you still have your duties and in your country, and absolutely, like the college, I mean, it depends a year. I mean, sometimes the time is not the best, but usually from my experience, I didn't have any problems. Every time I had to travel with my country, the university understood. And what was really, really important is like I was learning a lot of things here in the US, in the US system, that we're working, like having a huge team, like supporting each other. That swimming is not a individual sport, but it's a team sport because you're really training with a lot of people that are doing the same for the same goal. And I try to maybe take that to my country, try to show people the other side of swimming. We always think that maybe swimming is, again, like individual sport. I step on the block and it's only me against the water and myself. But if you look on the side, not too far, you're going to see your teammates supporting you. And that's a huge boost of energy for you. So I really learned that, and I tried to take that to my team. And I think that was something that also related to what we were just talking, like coming to the US and the experience is also about the culture. You're going to know a lot of people from a lot of different countries, and that you're not going to learn it in school or somewhere else, but when you're living it, and when you learn how other people live, and when you learn what other people do, and that having that little thing in your mind that other people do different things opens your mind a lot. And then you can probably start thinking in a different way. It's like when we were saying, like when we came to the US, like probably before we were offered to come to the US, we thought that everything we had was in our countries. And then when we were offered the opportunity to come to the US, you're like, wow, there's so much more. And the same thing happens when you meet people from different parts of the world. I have friends from everywhere, and I love it because I can really think in a different way that I did before, just because I know them and I know a little bit more the way they live.
Totally, I love that.
Yes, for me it was it of course, you come to another country and you have to race for New Zealand or Argentina or Guatemala or whichever country it is, and for me it was just something that was making me better at racing for my country. Like Santi said, most of the meets for my country were in the summer anyways, right? So they really wouldn't interfere much with the collegiate swimming. I mean, I'm not going to lie, there was a couple of times, maybe 2 or 3 times, where it did interfere, and it was a challenge and it was tough. But hey, life is tough. Like sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone, and that's what this is all about as well, growing as a person. It doesn't even need to be with swimming, managing your time, being a driven person, to achieve 3 things, which is be a student, an athlete for your university, and an athlete for your country. You're going to get out of this and get out of, like your education. And, there's not many people that can say they have done those 3 things. That's going to make you more desirable, a more, driven professional, in the future. So yeah, it was difficult at times, but it was something that I wouldn't change, right? It just made me better, if anything, because if I wasn't here, I would have not been able to probably represent my country at the Olympics to begin with, right? So it is a give and take situation, but at the end, the result is for the most part, and for most people, obviously there's exceptions, for the most part, extremely positive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, and you're right. There was times for me where it was challenging, but it always worked out, right? So that's the thing. It's like, even if it's tough, it does work out. And we always got to the meets that we needed to for our countries. And we always represented Auburn when we needed to as well. And we, for the most part, succeeded on both ends. But yeah, you're right. Because there was a couple of times where it just so happened that the nationals or qualifying meet that I had to go to for New Zealand was only a couple of weeks after the NCAAs, which is the collegiate nationals. And yeah, that's tough, and it makes your taper a little interesting, but we all pulled through. And I couldn't agree more that I think that for me personally, and everybody is different, had I stayed in New Zealand, I don't think I would have qualified for those international meets anyway. And so being at Auburn, even though I was doing collegiate nationals first and I was tired and then went to New Zealand nationals, I qualified for those meets because I was at Auburn. So I think that, yeah.
We also have to mention how school plays a huge part in our experience, because whenever we have to travel, whenever we have to compete and race with the university or maybe with your country, it happened to me. I left for a month last year, and talking with the professors and letting them know and telling them your story, and they are so supportive. And I think, at least, of course, there are exceptions, but that's what it makes a difference for us. Like when you know that there's people that will try to get out of their way to help you. And that was what it was for me, at least in my like academic experience, I never had any trouble. And I probably was like 40% out, 30% out of the time I was out of the class. I was somewhere else because I had to travel. I had to go somewhere else. And the professors were so supportive of that. They really like the student athletes. Like if you're a student in Auburn, you're going to be very respected. But if you're a student athlete anywhere, you're going to be respected in another different way because they know everything you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is crazy. You are respected everywhere. Like this is like, it's almost like everybody knows. Specifically, I'm just talking about Auburn because this is my experience. But I have heard people, War Eagle is like our war chant, right? I've heard people scream at me War Eagle because I'm wearing an Auburn shirt in Frankfurt, Germany. Like just in the most random of places, like it is seriously a thing that will carry you for the rest of your life anywhere you go. If you're wearing, the gear of your university, it is.
Which one was it? The craziest part? When I got out of my plane in my hometown, in my home city, there was a person that said War Eagle. And I was like, but wait, we're in Argentina.
Yes.
And it was awesome. It was awesome.
How crazy is that? So you said Frankfurt, Luis, and then your hometown. Wow.
Yeah.
That is, wow. Yeah, it's so amazing. And again, that would often happen with most universities over here, right? Because there's that pride to be student athletes and just be involved with a college is just it's such an amazing experience. That's so funny. I think I was traveling through, I think it's happened to me in New Zealand, in like a little town in New Zealand. Someone said it to me because I was wearing my Auburn hoodie going through the airport. And again, War Eagle, and it's like, what? These families, again, you may leave your blood family, but like Luis said, you or both of you said, we have technology, you can FaceTime, and that certainly helped me. But you may leave your blood family for a while, but you go into this family it's not even the student athletes, it's everywhere. It's Frankfurt, Germany, it's Argentina, it's a tiny town in New Zealand. It's amazing. And again, that would be any college over here because there's that collegiate pride, and especially on the athletic side, it's pretty amazing. That's awesome, you guys. I wonder, is there anything else that you would like to mention? Otherwise, I think that this has been amazing. But yeah, is there any other last points that you guys would like to put in?
I like to reinforce when we would say, like, if you think that you would like to try, just give it a try. You never know what might hold in the future for you unless you try, unless you take that extra step to do it. So it's gonna be a challenge. It's might be a little scary at the beginning, but give it a try. If you feel like that's what you like to try to do, I recommend it. I recommend you to do it because in my life, it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's definitely when we were talking about the people, like not listening to everything everybody has to say, and that is so true. What I would do is stay really close to your parents or whoever is that figure for you in your life. Always keep them in the loop. They want to know what you want to do, because at the end of the day, no matter what happens, even if they're a 16-hour flight away, that is the most important part of your family. Your parents, your siblings, whoever it is. So my last recommendation for you would be always keep them close, at whatever your decisions are. They want to know. It is important to them. Like when I came here, I was like, oh, I'm not going to text my parents. So, whatever. But, it made me realize later that, all these decisions you do, they can do along with you. Right. And they're always going to want what's best for you. Right. Everybody else is just noise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Luis and Santi, for joining me. I really, really appreciate this. And we all had those moments where people helped us realize that maybe the States was an opportunity. And I am hopeful that maybe this can be that moment for a New Zealand athlete, swimmer, whoever it may be. So thank you so much for joining me, you guys. And good luck with your training for the Olympics. You both rock. And it's a privilege of mine to have been your teammate. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Good luck to everyone.
Thank you.